Humans ripped and tore at Selay flesh with their bare hands as the two species clashed in the Zeta Centauri system, painting the void of space with sprays of blood, both red and green. This was only the beginning of the price the Selay would pay for provoking humanity. Matthew Jones, seasoned human diplomat, sat stiffly in the dimly lit chamber. Across from him, Selay Ambassador Gruss flared his reptilian nostrils above a mouth lined with dagger-like teeth. Gruss's yellow eyes narrowed to slits as he hissed out, "Your kind have gone much too far this time, human. The Selay Dominion will not tolerate your treaty violations and insults upon our honor in Zeta Centauri." Matthew just scoffed, meeting Gruss's alien glare without flinching. "Your forces blasted our civilian transport out of the sky with zero warning. What did you think would happen? We defended ourselves as the treaty allows. So stop trying to twist this, lizard. We both know you're in the wrong here." Gruss's neck frills flushed crimson with rage at the human's sheer gall and disrespect. The chamber's recycled air grew heavy with unspoken threats as both representatives refused to bend, the future of human-Selay relations teetering on a razor's edge. Every human in the galaxy would pay if their diplomat showed one iota of weakness now. But this was hardly humanity's first hostile encounter with the arrogant Selay. When the two species first met, the Selay had viewed humans as pitiful primitives to be crushed or dominated. Time and time again, the lizards learned the hard way never to underestimate mankind's iron will and cunning. Push humans into a corner, and they always found a way to push back 100 times harder. And now, after the wanton Selay attack on innocent passengers, humanity found itself shoved into the tightest corner yet. The Selay were out for blood. Matthew could only pray he was clever and tough enough to face them down. The alternative was unthinkable. A savage war that would leave planets cracked and stars extinguished. So the diplomat squashed his disgust, steeled his spine, and prepared to verbally duel this alien monstrosity for the sake of all mankind. Our troubles with the Selay stretch back over 200 years, long before the incident with the Endeavour and the Selay outpost in the Zeta Centauri system. No, humanity's first clash with those scaly bastards occurred in 2257, in the Theta Orionis system. It all started when the USS Endeavour, captained by Marcus Donovan, was out charting new star systems on the fringes of explored space. The Endeavour's long-range scanners picked up an artificial structure on the fourth planet of Theta Orionis. Naturally, Donovan ordered the ship to alter course and investigate. He had no idea that structure was a Selay military outpost, or that the Selay commander in charge, a vicious son of a bitch named Zath, would react to the Endeavour's friendly hails by opening fire. The Endeavour shuddered as the first Selay plasma torpedoes slammed into her hull. Sparks showered from overloaded conduits on the bridge while klaxons blared. "Report!" Donovan barked, gripping the armrests of his chair. "Shields at 60% and falling," the tactical officer shouted back. "Their weapons are punching right through, Captain." "Hard to port, evasive pattern Delta 5, Donovan ordered. The stars on the view screen smeared into lines as the helmsman sent the Endeavour into a dizzying spiral. "Divert auxiliary power to shields and charge our railguns, but set them to half yield. I want to disable those alien bastards, not blow them to scrap." The bridge crew scrambled to obey while the deck pitched and rolled beneath their feet. Consoles flickered and damage reports flooded in, but they gritted their teeth and did their duty. Humanity refused to roll over and die, even in our very first standoff against the Selay's superior firepower. The Endeavour fought like a cornered pit bull, spinning and juking, hammering the Selay with precision railgun strikes to knock out their engines and weapons. The battle raged for over an hour before the Selay ship limped away, leaking atmosphere from a dozen hull breaches. The Endeavour was left drifting, licking her wounds, lucky to escape destruction. But she gave as good as she got, and the Selay learned an important lesson that day. Humans may be outgunned, but we're one hell of a tough nut to crack. That first skirmish was just the beginning. As humanity spread further out into the galaxy, we kept bumping up against the Selay. They claimed planet after planet, star system after star system, while we did the same. Border tensions flared into sporadic firefights. Both sides probed each other for weaknesses, Trade deals were negotiated, then broken when one species or the other felt cheated. Each year, it seemed like the Cold War between mankind and the lizards grew a little hotter. But humanity adapted. Reverse engineering technology from every battle, win or lose, we began to close the gap. Shields grew stronger, weapons hit harder, ships became faster and more maneuverable. The Selais still had the advantage in a straight-up fight, and they damn well knew it. But by the opening shots of the Zeta Centauri conflict, the Selais were starting to realize that mankind wouldn't stay the underdogs forever. We were coming for them, and when the time was right, we'd bite the hand that sought to keep us under its scaly thumb. Commander Krax's scaled face twisted into a sneer of contempt as he regarded the human admiral. His grip tightened on his rifle, his claws clacking against the weapon's metal. The Selais troopers surrounding the human miners shifted, their own guns at the ready, awaiting their commander's orders. The air was thick with tension, the distant stars cold and uncaring witnesses to the drama unfolding on the barren asteroid. Admiral Santiago held her ground, her eyes locked with Krax's reptilian gaze. She stood tall and unbowed, a lone human facing down a wall of armored Selais. "Commander," she said again, her tone reasonable but firm, "resorting to violence will only escalate this situation. Let us discuss this calmly as civilized beings. Surely we can find a solution that serves both our interests." Krax's tongue flicked out, tasting the Admiral's scent. "You speak of civility, human, yet you trespass on our territory. You disrespect our borders, and now you seek to dictate terms to us. The arrogance." Santiago shook her head. "Arrogance? No, Commander. Merely a desire for peace, for coexistence. These miners meant no harm. They will leave your space, and we will make amends for their mistake. But first, you must stand down your troops. Show us that the Selais are as committed to resolving this peacefully as we are." For a long, tense moment, Krax was silent. The Selais soldiers shifted uneasily, their claws twitching on their triggers. The human miners watched wide-eyed, hardly daring to breathe, and Admiral Santiago, the fate of two species resting on her next words, on the strength of her will, stood unflinching in the face of potential annihilation. Then Krax laughed, a rasping, hissing sound. "You have spirit, human, I'll grant you that, very well. We will talk. But know this. The Selais dominion will not be trifled with. Cross us again, and there will be war." The Admiral inclined her head, acknowledging the warning, the threat. "Understood, Commander. Shall we begin?" As the two leaders moved to parley, the Selais soldiers reluctantly lowering their weapons, the narrator mused, "That was the Geminon crisis in a nutshell. A narrowly averted catastrophe. Another step in the delicate dance between humans and Selais. But it was far from the last. The years that followed would bring more challenges, more disputes, more moments when it seemed our two species must surely come to blows. And yet, somehow, we endured. We found ways to coexist, if not in harmony, then at least in a state of begrudging respect. But the question remained, how long could such a precarious balance last? How long before one side or the other crossed a line that could not be uncrossed? As our peoples continued to spread across the stars, as our interests increasingly clashed, it began to feel more and more like peace was nothing but a fleeting dream, a fool's hope. And then came the Zeta Centauri incident, the attack on the Endeavour, and the Cold War turned hot at last. The Selais had pushed us too far, and now there would be a reckoning, a settling of scores long overdue. The narrator's voice grows somber as he recounts the Voldari invasion. It was a dark time for both humanity and the Selais. The Voldari struck without warning or mercy, their ships appearing suddenly in the skies above our colonies, like harbingers of doom. They rained down plasma fire and quantum torpedoes, reducing cities to rubble and turning verdant worlds into charred wastelands. On the surface of New Athens, Sergeant Jack Hawkins sprints through the ruins of the colony's capital, dodging falling debris and energy blasts. The air is thick with smoke and the stench of burning flesh. All around him, civilians scream in terror as they flee the destruction, while his fellow soldiers fight a desperate rearguard action against the Voldari ground troops. Hawkins ducks into a partially collapsed building, his heart pounding in his chest. He frantically activates his comm device, praying to whatever gods might be listening that someone, anyone, will answer his call. "This is Sergeant Hawkins of the human colony New Athens," he practically shouts into the device, his voice hoarse from the acrid smoke. "We are under attack by an unknown enemy. We need immediate assistance." For a moment, there is nothing but static. Hawkins feels his stomach drop, despair clawing at his mind. But then a voice crackles through the comm, distorted but unmistakably Sile. "This is Captain Zora of the Sile outpost Tharkax. We too are under attack. We will send reinforcements, but we must coordinate our efforts if we are to survive." Hawkins nearly collapses with relief. He quickly relays his coordinates and the status of the colony's defenses, his words tumbling out in a rush. "Understood, Captain Zora. We'll hold the line until your forces arrive. And thank you." There is a brief pause, and then Zora replies, her voice tight with emotion. "Do not thank me yet, Sergeant. We still have a battle to win. For both our peoples, Zora out." As the comm goes silent, Hawkins takes a deep breath, steeling himself for the fight to come. He knows the odds are against them, that the Voldari are unlike any foe they have ever faced. But he also knows that the Selai are coming, that for the first time in history, humans and Selai will stand together against a common threat. The narrator interjects, his voice filled with a mix of pride and sorrow. The battle for New Athens was just the beginning. Across the galaxy, human and Selai forces fought side by side, their blood mingling on 100 different worlds. It was a war unlike any other, a desperate struggle for survival against an enemy that seemed to know no fear, no mercy, no limits. But even in the darkest of times, there were moments of hope, of unity. Human scientists worked hand in hand with Selai researchers to develop new weapons, new strategies to counter the Voldari's advanced technology. Soldiers from both species fought and died together, forging bonds of brotherhood and sisterhood in the crucible of war. And slowly, painfully, the tide began to turn. The Voldari's advance slowed, then stopped, then reversed as the human-Selai alliance pushed back with everything they had. Worlds were liberated, colonies rebuilt, and the once unstoppable Voldari found themselves on the defensive for the first time. The narrator brings the story back to the present, saying, "And so we come full circle to the tense meeting between Matthew Jones and Ambassador Gruss. The incident in the Zeta Centauri system, a tragic misunderstanding that cost lives on both sides, threatens to unravel decades of hard-won progress in human-Selai relations." The scene shifts back to the dimly lit room, where Matthew and Gruss are locked in a heated debate. Matthew leans forward, his hands clasped tight on the table. "Ambassador," he says, his voice tinged with weariness, "we have fought side by side against the Voldari. We have shed blood together, human and Selai. Let us not allow this incident to destroy the fragile peace we have built." Gruss hisses, his eyes narrowing to slits. His claws clack against the table as he jabs a finger at Matthew. "You speak of peace, human, but your actions belie your words. Your ships fired first. Your aggression caused this. The Selai Dominion will not be taken for fools. There will be consequences for your transgressions." Matthew shakes his head, refusing to be cowed by the Selai's anger. "And I tell you again, Ambassador, our ships acted in self-defense after yours attacked without provocation. We want nothing more than to resolve this peacefully, but we will not accept the blame for a conflict your forces started." The air in the room grows thick with tension as the two diplomats stare each other down, neither willing to bend. The fate of two species, of the tenuous alliance forged in the crucible of war, hangs in the balance. The narrator concludes, "As Matthew leaves the meeting, he knows that the road ahead will be difficult. The Zeta Centauri incident has reopened old wounds and reignited ancient animosities. Some within the Selai Dominion, like Gruss, see it as an opportunity to reassert their dominance and put humanity back in its place. Others, however, remember the sacrifices made during the Voldari War and the bonds forged in battle. The future of human-Selai relations hangs in the balance, and it will take all of Matthew's skill, determination, and unwavering resolve to navigate the challenges ahead. For one thing is certain, humanity will not back down, and the Sci-Fi will learn, as they have in the past, that to provoke humans is to invite consequences that echo across the stars. Matthew strides down the corridor from the meeting room, his jaw set. Around him, the human diplomatic compound buzzes with tension and activity. Aides rush by with datapads, urgent voices are raised in heated discussions. The news of the confrontation with Gruss has spread like wildfire. An aide falls into step beside Matthew, her face tight with worry. "Sir, the Sci-Fi ships in orbit are powering up weapons. They're threatening to open fire if we don't hand over those responsible for the incident in Zeta Centauri." Matthew doesn't break stride. "They're bluffing. They won't risk an all-out war, not after everything we've been through together. Get me a line to Admiral Kowalski on the Indefatigable. I want our fleet on high alert, but tell them to hold position. We don't want to be the ones to escalate this." The aide nods and hurries off, already barking orders into her comm unit. Matthew allows himself a moment to close his eyes and take a deep breath. The ghosts of the past, of all the times humanity and the Sci-Fi have clashed, weigh heavy on his shoulders. But beneath that weight, there is a steely resolve. Humanity has come too far, has sacrificed too much, to let the Sci-Fi drag them back into the old cycles of hatred and mistrust. One way or another, Matthew will find a way to preserve the peace, even if it takes every last ounce of his strength and cunning, even if it means staring down the barrel of a Sci-Fi gun. The narrator's voice rises over the scene, heavy with the weight of history. And so, once again, humanity found itself at a crossroads. On one path, war and destruction, a return to the old ways that had brought both species to the brink of annihilation. On the other, the harder path, the path of peace and understanding, of building on the foundation of trust and sacrifice that had been laid during the Voldari conflict. The decisions made in the coming days would shape the future of not just humanity and the Sci-Fi, but of the entire galaxy. As tensions mount and fleets gather in the skies above, one thing remains certain. The human spirit, that indomitable will that had carried us through so many trials before, would not be broken. Whatever challenges lay ahead, humanity would face them with the same courage and determination that had defined our species since we first reached for the stars. The scene fades, the narrator's words hanging in the air like a promise and a challenge, a promise that humanity would never surrender, never back down in the face of adversity, and a challenge to the Sci-Fi, to all the races of the galaxy who would seek to test our resolve. Come what may, humanity would endure, and woe to those who stood in our way. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.